Hey everybody, it's Ricardo, and I am here with Daryl Gallagher, who's head of Crystal Dynamics, and he has just taken the reins for the first time for us on the new Tomb Raider. So, Daryl, this is radically different. I mean, this is a reboot, right?
It's definitely a new take on Tomb Raider, that's for sure. Yeah, it's absolutely a reboot.
So, why? There's all kinds of options when you choose to do a reboot, right? So you guys have taken a very unique approach. This is, if we're going to think about it in comic terms, this is her origin story, and you guys are picking up from a very specific point in her life that lends itself to a certain style of game. So why did you choose this, and did that determine the gameplay?
Yeah, I mean, for us, there was a couple of reasons we chose it. One, at Crystal, we developed a trilogy. We'd put out Legend, Anniversary, and Underworld, and we really felt we kind of wrapped that up, and we'd really done as much as we could kind of with Lara as we knew her. So from that perspective, we wanted to take it in a new direction. And as we looked into that, we really felt that the one big area that hadn't really ever been explored was the origins of Lara Croft, right? That, ever since the beginning and the first game, she was already fully formed. She had 2 guns, she was already acrobatic, she was a badass right out the gate. And we really felt that there was kind of a piece missing in terms of this, incredible character that we all know, that we actually didn't know how she became who she was. And that was an interesting place to start.
Now, part and parcel with that kind of sensitive approach to telling her story is a new style of narrative, because for the most part, the previous game's a little thin on the narrative. She had a mission, she was going for it. There's a lot of thinking and talking here. So talk to us about how you're telling the story and how we meet Laura. What's her deal right now?
Well, as you saw, she's a young 21-year-old, straight out of university. She's full of life, full of adventure. She sets off, and she's with a small crew. She's got a mentor, a captain of the boat called Roth. And disaster happens. The boat crashes, and ultimately she gets washed up on this island, and that really starts us off. And that's the beginning for this story. In terms of how we tell it, some of the things that was really important to us is really to tell that through a number of different methods. It's not just cinematics, although we do have them. It's really about actually putting the storytelling into the gameplay. That we really want the character to emote. We really want the camera to emote. We really want the player to feel what Lara's going through as she's going through it. So you hear that in the character performance, audio, in the animation performance, in the layering of animations to make it feel like you see what she's going through rather than just going through the mechanics. And those are some of the techniques we use to actually tell that story.
And the story is taking place in a rather unfriendly world. I think typically in a lot of the Tomb Raider games, she's walking in, it's a tomb. There's not a whole lot going on, there's some traps, but for the most part, it's kind of chill. It's very different where she's at. There's a lot of angry people, angry animals. Tell us about the environment and the world and how she can interact with it. This is a place that is a constant threat, right? That ultimately, this is a survival story, right? That's the real emphasis on this. This is about taking a character, breaking her down, and building her up. And to do that, we need a threat. We need something that is an underlying tension, and that tension is really the character of this island. This is a hostile island. It is a place that is unfriendly. This is a place where she's going to get put through, the meat grinder, and really, it's a place that's going to force her to discover a part of herself that she's never seen before. So that threat, from a narrative perspective, is very important in terms of her character arc. And Laura's resourcefulness, takes form in a number of different ways. Obviously, fire is a big thing, as we saw in the demo, but also you guys are introducing a kind of a new physics system, which is different than what we're used to in a Tomb Raider.
Yeah, I mean, the physics, it's absolutely a big emphasis in this game. It's about the physics being understandable, mass, weight, fire, water, buoyancy are all things that we've seen. It's about you being able to actually look at a space and see the connections in terms of how to actually manipulate it, how you can actually interact with it, and get to experiment with that physical world to really progress as a character.
And speaking of interactions, staple of a Tomb Raider game, puzzles and crate pushing. I know you don't want to give everything away, but are we going to be pushing crates, or are it going to be puzzles?
Have you seen a crate yet? I haven't seen a crate yet, so
I can't guarantee it, but there's so far no crates.
Now, there are other expectations on a Tomb Raider game in terms of size and scale, because she's always had big adventures in big places. We've got an island. What can you tell us about the scope and the scale of this adventure?
Well, it's set on one island. It is not an open world in terms of completely freeform, but there are large pockets that you can explore. We have hubs that you can actually spend a lot of time in. There are a number of different hubs in terms of around the island, and ultimately it's a very large. There are very large spaces in terms of your ability to get immersed, to actually learn about the island, to collect resources, to learn more story bits. There's a real large space for you to play in, and those spaces are also non-linear in terms of your ability to go back and actually retraverse areas, unlock new gear to actually get to areas you couldn't get to in the past, and see it from different angles.
Let's talk about the gear for a second, because in previous Tomb Raider games, she just finds stuff and it was good to go, but you guys have a kind of a new system, which you said you weren't going to give us too much information on, which is fine, but what can you tell us?
I can tell you that ultimately that every piece of gear has a special meaning. That there are multiple uses for each piece of gear. That they're very precious items. It's an island where she has to be resourceful. She has to survive. So these things are very meaningful pieces of gear, and we have the ability for you as a player to upgrade pieces of gear as you go through the game. So there are rewards for exploration, there are rewards for scavenging, and there are rewards for being resourceful.
Now, in addition to upgrading her gear, you can also upgrade Laura herself, because she's learning stuff every day, like how to avoid wolves.
She is, yeah. I mean, ultimately there's a character arc, so that naturally fits that as she grows as a character, also her skills grow too.
Now, one of the skills that she seems to have right at the beginning of the game is this survival sense, which you guys tease a little bit with. It's kind of a different way of looking at the world, right?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's Lara, one of her abilities is brains over brawn. That's what makes her unique. And survival instinct is really her tool in the tool bag that she can use, her natural intuition, her skills, and her intellect to actually pass the world and understand, areas of interest to progress and to ultimately survive and escape.
All right, well, it all sounds very cool, but of course, the most important question, when's it coming out and what platforms?
Release date's not set, I can't tell you that, but it's PS3, 360, PC.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Well, there you go. That is your first look at Tomb Raider, a brand new entry in the series that's going to pretty much reboot the whole thing and give you insight into Lara Croft like you've never seen before. So for more on the game, be sure and check back on the site as often as you can.